We are now joined by Leonard, who's the lead world designer for Diablo3. Been working on this game for many years, and now the final class has been revealed. What's the reaction? I mean, I saw there's surveys that people fill out after they play the game, right, and give you guys real feedback?
Yeah, we don't get to see those until we go back to the office, but
okay.
Just from random samplings, it seems people have been really enthusiastic about it. It's been a great reaction. It was just great when we released the video yesterday at the opening ceremony. The crowd reaction was just phenomenal.
So up until BlizzCon, who's had a chance to play the Demon Hunter?
Just internally.
Only
just
internally.
Us testing it, making sure it was good for BlizzCon.
How do you guys decide the order of classes to reveal? Like, you know, holding the Demon Hunter until the end?
Well, the Demon Hunter was actually started out as a ranger, and we've been developing her for a long time. She just kind of kept getting pushed to the back. There wasn't a strategic plan.
Right.
You could probably talk to Jay Wilson a little bit more about that side of things. But we started off with the Barbarian because that was kind of a melee class and was very much about power, and that was a little bit more of a difficult thing to get right than a ranged class. So that was our first pushback on the Ranger.
Right.
And then, you know, things like the Witch Doctor was kind of different. So it's like we kept tackling other stuff. It's just the ranged class kept getting pushed to the back.
Huh. Now, you're the lead world designer, so obviously,
Sure.
you know, the world, the levels are very important to you. Jay broke the news yesterday that you guys can actually play through the full game now in a very sort of primitive state. So the worlds are, I guess, complete, but now you kind of go in and refine them and change them around, and I mean, obviously a lot of it is randomized as well, too.
Yes. Some of the later areas are pretty in the extremely primitive states, but
right.
You can get from the beginning to the end of the game now.
Wow. And so what is the next stage of development for you with these worlds? I mean, is it really just adding more detail to them?
Yeah, it's really fleshing it out, putting in the details, putting in the, you know, one of the things we do with the story, which I'm heavily involved in, is we do an opt-in approach, but we also like to layer it in. You know, so if I'm running through as a very action-oriented player, I just want to, you know, get a really quick sense of what the story is and just kill stuff, and that's fine. And we layer that layer in first, and then, you know, we start layering more and more layers. The deeper you dig into the story, and the deeper you dig into the details of the world, and that's the stuff we kind of put in and make sure that, you know, the nooks and crannies are filled as we go through.
Now, there's actually a new dungeon that's available here on the show for the attendees to play.
Sure.
Can you tell us not only what they're experiencing visually, but the lore behind that?
Sure. It's called the Halls of Agony, and it's a very dark, kind of red-tinged dungeon. It's the torture chambers of the Mad King Leoric. For long-time Diablo players, they will recognize the name as the King of Tristram, who went mad and became the Skeleton King. Diablo himself tried to possess King Leoric, and in the sad tale, Leoric was able to throw him off. He was a brave, great king. He was able to resist the attempt by Diablo to possess him, but in the experience, he went mad and began torturing his subjects, and eventually his guards killed him. And he resurrected after death as the Skeleton King. Even death doesn't free you from Diablo's mad grip. And you know, these dungeons kind of reflect the madness that he inflicted on his people. And as he was spiraling down, you know, what was going on in that world. There's even some ghost scenes that you see, like him executing his wife and things like that. The queen, for you know, his paranoia, you know, saying that she was treasonous. So it really kind of like. It's another opt-in kind of story thing. It's like, you know, we kind of show you the stuff as you're playing, as opposed to having you stop and really, you know, have to stand and like listen to story. We try to really integrate it into it as you're playing the game.
Are these actual in-game cutscenes or pre-rendered cinematics that are going to be
No,
telling that story?
it's actually as you're running around, you know, you might come upon a little scene playing out. You know, as you get close, you'll see this ghostly scene happening, and if you could stand there and watch it or just run by if you don't care.
How are you going to handle storytelling in the game? Because, you know, StarCraft 2 took a lot of leaps forward with in-game cinematics, in-game storytelling. Is everything going to sort of play out from within the game engine?
Well, we have cutscenes throughout the game that are pre-rendered cinematics. Not too many of those, so that's one aspect of it. But what we're really doing is we're trying to do as much playing. We call it play, don't tell. You know, so that as you're playing, you get the gist of the story, as opposed to having to get a download of huge text from NPCs. There are times where you have to talk to NPCs, and you do get quests. You know, so that is part of it. But another part of it is we give, you know, lore books that you can listen to as you're playing through the game. So that's a way of like getting, you know, background and history on things. As you're running through the game, you'll meet people, and they'll give you bits and pieces of the story. So it's really kind of like it's kind of a distributed way of telling the story. And then, of course, there's the things like the ghost scenes I was talking about, where you can you can happen upon scenes that are happening. It's really kind of it's a very opt-in system.
Excellent. Now, as you work on development of this game, you've obviously set a lot of worlds, a lot of locations where we're going to go. Is there anywhere that we don't know we're going to go in Diablo 3 yet that you're keeping a secret? I mean, where's the story going to take us?
Well, I can't really talk about that, or it wouldn't be a secret.
There are secrets, though, right?
We're holding some stuff back, but no, it's got some really awesome stuff that's going to really surprise players that I think they're going to be really happy about.
Now, is this going to be a story that's told when the game releases, or is it going to be a progressive story that's told in patches? I mean, how is that
No, you'll get a full story with this release. Hopefully, epic story. We believe it's epic. We feel it's a great story. I think it really moves the franchise forward. You'll get a beginning, middle, and end to the story in this game.
Are there any plans to release patch content after, like you do for the other games?
Well, for expansions. Well, every Blizzard game has had expansions, so I can't think that this one would be any different. But right now, we're really just concentrating on getting this one out the door.
That's a good idea.
Fair enough. Let's go to Twitter. We got some questions for you, Leonard, on Twitter. You guys can send questions to @JeffKeeley and also @CatHunter if you want to ask questions of Leonard. But let's go to the first one. This one comes from Jonas. Jonas says, how much of the Diablo 3 world is procedurally generated content? One of the interesting things is that you have a lot of randomized content in Diablo. Is any of the story procedurally generated, or how much do you design versus sort of set up as emergent gameplay?
Well, what we do from the story aspect is we'll have scenes that get swapped in and out. So you might run into a scene and maybe a guy's being ambushed, or come running to you for help, or he has a little story going on, and the next time you play the game and you run through that particular scene, it might be the entrance to a dungeon, or just a pile of rocks. So we have to pre-generate this stuff, we have to pre-make it, but we could swap it in and out on the fly as you run through the game. Okay. So I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, good question. We got some more here coming in from Twitter as well. This one comes from Luis. I think he's emailed us before. This one is, are there any classes you guys thought about but didn't make the cut for Diablo 3? No Paladin or Druids, but Mage and the Demon Hunter looks sweet, he says.
We've considered a lot of different classes. Like the Ranger, it was originally going to be the Ranger. On our panel yesterday, we talked about how we went from Ranger to Demon Hunter, because Ranger just seemed too generic. The Witch Doctor, we hit on that vibe pretty early on. We did consider the Necromancer, but then we thought, the Necromancer was so good in Diablo 2, it's kind of like, well, why do something that was done so spectacularly? We thought the Barbarian was good in Diablo 2, but could have been spectacular. That's why we brought the Barbarian back. People were a little bit, calling for the Necromancer to come back since they had such fond memories of it and they loved it so much. But we're like, but it was so great and so perfect. All we could do is like match it. You know what I mean? It's like we really couldn't. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of not really a process of elimination, kind of a process of conglomeration, taking the best ideas we had and combining them into as we call it at Blizzard, concentrated coolness.
Speaking of classes, can you tell us more about the background of the Demon Hunter and kind of her backstory?
Sure. The Demon Hunters, as we talked about yesterday in the panel again, they're not born into the class like all of our other classes. They're rescued from demon slaughters. They're survivors. A lot of people, when they go through, even if they physically survive demon encounters, they don't emotionally survive it. So these are people who are very tough emotionally as well as physically. They're recruited by demon hunters, they're trained by demon hunters, and they become demon hunters, and they're very revenge-driven. They become very obsessed with, eradicating demons from the world. Some of the other classes have a different outlook. Like the Witch Doctor has a very religious worldview that's kind of doesn't take into account angels and demons because it comes from a totally different part of the world, hasn't been exposed to that mythology. But the demon hunters have no misconception about what's going on. They know exactly what the stakes are and what's going on.
They're fully aware of sanctuary situations.
Yes, they know about the eternal conflict.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, let's hit Twitter for another question. You're blowing up on Twitter here today, Leonard. Are you on Twitter yourself?
No, I'm not, actually.
Here we go. We got to get.
I just got on Facebook. I'm an old man when it comes to this stuff.
You're probably getting a lot of Facebook ads right now. All right, this question comes from Brody. And Brody says, how does the rating system work in Diablo 3?
The rating?
Yeah, I guess how
how you raid in WoW?
Exactly, yeah.
We don't raid like you do in WoW.
Exactly, yeah.
You get together with your friends and you play dungeons or don't. You can drop in and out. It's not like you have to get together and do a raid.
But maybe more cooperative play with your friends.
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
That way.
Exactly. You don't. Unless, I mean, I guess if you're playing Hell and you want, because what happens in our game as opposed to WoW is like if 3 other people join my game gets that much more difficult.
Right.
It's not like if I have 3 other people join my game, that's gonna help me do it better. It kind of like maintains the difficulty level no matter how many people are playing.
So that's the answer to his question.
All right, that's a fair enough answer. Let's move on to the last Twitter question we've got for you. This is from Dave, and Dave says, how much of the game will be dependent on your class? Will there be class-specific areas or quests?
We're toying with how much content we can put in. It's really difficult because of the drop-in-and-out nature of the co-op play. I could start the game with a witch doctor, a barbarian, a wizard, and then, if we pre-generated all the content for that in the world, and then a bunch of people drop out and a bunch of other people jump in, and then I have 3 barbarians and a witch doctor, and I pre-generated all this content. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to do a lot of background, a lot of deeper lore stuff that is more opt-in storytelling for the classes. And maybe reactions of people and stuff like that, not full-on quests or things. Just because it was too difficult. And one of our main things is we really want to build the co-op multiplayer experience as like a main experience for this game.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much, Leonard. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Great to be in the Diablo area. What do you think of our nice big set here?
I love it.
Diablo-ized,
I like the sign.
Look, it's glowing red out in front.
Oh, right on.
Exactly. Diablo is below us. All right. Well, right now we're going to take a look at another thing tied to the world of Diablo. It's the Diablo 3 poker set. Check this out.